Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves, and drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. My guest for this week is Charnelle Hercules-Nguyen, chartered accountant who's been working and traveling for the last 5 years. She also hosts her own show on YouTube called Chats with Charnie. Make sure you check it out. Charnelle, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me always on your channel. This is the first time I'm being asked questions and not actually asking the questions myself. So this is awesome. Thank you so much for having me here, and hello to everyone on your platform.
Let's jump straight in. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Charnelle?
So again, hi everyone. My name is Charnelle. I'm born and raised in Cape Town, South Africa, but recently I've been calling the United States my home for actually the past year now. I've been a chartered accountant since the end of 2017. After that, I moved to Ireland, where I was for a year, and then I moved to the United States, where I was for a year and a half. I went back home to South Africa and then returned back to the United States because it was just so good. While I was in Europe, I traveled quite a bit. Um, and I am an alumni from the University of the Western Cape. So if there's anybody from UWC, welcome to Waste Channel. So awesome to have you guys here. And just know that being a chartered accountant, it is a gateway to many opportunities as long as you present yourself to those opportunities. Something about me that is outside of being a chartered accountant, and actually how I met my husband is that I love doing bachata dance, which is a Dominican dance style, and it's really fun. And I think it took me out of the boredom and mundane life of being a CA. So yeah.
And you mentioned you've got a husband, but other than that, outside of work,
Outside of work, I am a professional housewife at the moment.
love it, love it.
I've put in my CA designation on the shelf for the time being, and I'm just basking in being a wife and being a stay-at-home wife for that matter. And you actually said my surname correct. My surname is Nguyen. The origin is Vietnamese. So I think it is very different, and probably one of the first times South Africans actually see that surname and probably not too sure how to pronounce it. So well done on being correct.
Thanks, appreciate it. I had a good laugh when I saw your background. I was like, she's traveling here and she's traveling there. She's basically the opposite of me because I grew up in Salt River, and where am I now? I'm still sitting in Salt River. So, you know, but
It's well,
anyway,
it's to each their own, right? Some people want to stay where they are and they want to be around family, they want to be around their friends, familiarity. Other people want to see what the world has to offer. They might even start a life outside of the comfort zone, which is what I did. And a lot of people just return back home just because they wanted the experience outside, and they come back home and they use the skills that they learned while they were living abroad or working abroad to further their career in South Africa, build a family, and whatever else they'd like to do.
okay. I mean, you mentioned you in the US.
Yes.
How long have you been there, and how long do you plan on staying? Because apparently you move around like a lot.
Yes. So this is the third time I've relocated. The third time I've packed up my bags. The first time was in 2018, then in 2019, and in 2020, I packed up my bags and I went back home to South Africa. And then in 2022, I packed up my bags and I came back to America. So I've been here for almost a year now. I think it's been 11 months. I arrived in January, and I plan on staying here as long as my husband plans on staying here. So my husband is an American citizen. So as long as he wants to make a life here, then I'll be here. If he decides, because he is actually so in love with Cape Town, it's insane. So we were in a long distance relationship for about a year and a half, and he came to South Africa 3 times during that time, and he loves Cape Town, I think, more than I do. So he's always like, "Oh, when are we going to Panarottis?" Like, I want Panarottis, I want Woolworths. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. So we might just go home in the next couple of years. We might go elsewhere, Europe. As I said, your CASA does open a lot of doors for you. So
Okay.
we'll see.
So does that mean you spent lockdown in South Africa, not in the
Well, both.
Okay.
So because it was 2020 was when I left, I was when lockdown started in March, I was in the United States. And so I was here up until July of that year. So I was living the American lockdown life, which really wasn't locked down. Yes, there were quite a few places that were closed during the time. It was obviously the masks mandate. Um, they do not do the hand sanitizing as well as we do. Like, we have hand sanitizing in South Africa at every single store you go to, at every entrance you go to. Yeah, it's like you're on your own. You need to have your own hand sanitizer wherever you go. And then I actually went to Ireland for a month when I left South Africa. I mean, when I left America. And that was because I had an opportunity to get work in Luxembourg, and I got the job. But unfortunately, a week before I was going to leave for Ireland, I was told that all the offers were being rescinded. And then I was left like stranded with a
Wow.
week to decide, like, what was I going to do. I'd already booked my ticket to Ireland, and then I was going to go from Ireland to Luxembourg. So I was going to wait out the work permit time in Ireland. And I was like in tears. I was crying because obviously I had plans. I was gonna travel between Europe and the States to see my then boyfriend, or he was gonna travel to see me. And now it's like, what is going to happen? And I remember speaking to my father on the phone, and he was like, "Just go and have your holiday in Ireland. You've lived there before." Like, I knew everything about it. I had friends there, and my friend was waiting for me actually because I was gonna stay with her. And then I ended up being there for 2 months. It was a great time. And that was basically when the end of the 2 months was when South Africa opened up for international travels for all South Africans. Because when I left the United States, I think tickets were going for between 25 and 50,000 rand
Wow.
for a one-way ticket back home. And I think you could only have one bag. You couldn't have two bags, something like that. And even if you were first class, like in business class, they still wouldn't give you extra baggage allowances. And I was like, there's no way I'm spending that amount of money. That is insane. It's crazy. Like, SAA, it was a no for me. So I kind of waited it out in Ireland. And then I only paid, I think, about between 500 and 600 euros at the time to take a one-way ticket back home.
Okay. So
So
less
it
than 20K versus 50K. Big
exactly.
difference. Okay. Big difference.
Very big difference. So yeah, that's when I went back to South Africa, and then I was there for about a year and a half before I came back to America. I was working and living, I tried to pick up my old life again. Very difficult because all of my friends were traveling actually at the time. Most of my friends were living abroad. I then came back to South Africa. Obviously, luckily, I have my parents and my family, so it was really great to see them after not seeing some of them for like a year and a half. So that was awesome. Yeah.
You've definitely taken the road less traveled. So what made you decide on this approach instead of the norm? The norm is okay, after articles, either stay on as an audit manager or look for an FM job that gets me to the FT. And you were like, no, I'm going to travel. So
Yeah.
what made you decide to do that?
So when I think I was 12 or 13, I had read up on Switzerland, and that Switzerland was such a clean place, such a beautiful place. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to live in Switzerland one day. I'm going to travel abroad one day. And one of the reasons why I chose Big Four when I started my articles was because of the secondment opportunities with them, and the fact that they had so many, sorry, they had so many branches and other firms around the world. They were global. So I was like, I'm only going to go for Big Four. And that's when I signed up with PwC. And I've just always wanted to travel. I've always wanted to live abroad, experience different things and new things. I didn't quite have an example of that, growing up. All my family members and friends always stayed in South Africa. Some of them moved to Johannesburg, but they kind of never left the borders of South Africa. And I was like, I want to see the rest of the world. I want to see what there is to offer. I've always wanted to go to Venice, and my dream came true in 2018. It was so amazing because I woke up on my 26th birthday in Venice, and it was like just so unreal, and it was such an amazing experience. And the travel bug caught me really quickly. The first place I went to was the Netherlands. And then it kind of just like spiraled after that. Like eventually my dad was like, you need to stop now. You are taking this overboard. You're going to too many places. You need to stop. And I'm like, I ain't stopping. Ain't nobody stopping me. Okay. This is what I want to do. Did I ever think that I was going to work in America and live in America? Never. I never thought that. When I was in Ireland, I was like, I'm either going to stay in Ireland or I'm going to, as many of my friends did do, my friends that moved to Ireland, they actually stayed there. And I think some of them are up for like their citizenship because they're almost 5 years. And I was like, it's either that or Europe because I love Europe. The ability to travel by taking a bus or a train to a whole country, I mean, that's amazing. You don't really get that anywhere else but that continent. And I thought, you know what, I would get a US visa, like a visitor's visa, and I'd go for a month, just to travel. The States is a whole continent. So you need that time to really see everything if that's what you want to do. But did I think that I was going to work here and live here? No, that was never my idea. So when the opportunity came to actually work in the States and move there, I was like, oh, it's going to be like for 4 months. I'm not no, it's not for me. America, because, we all have that perception of America. And, because of the media and everything like that. And then I actually came here. I came to Dallas, was the first city I moved to, Dallas, Texas. I love Texas, firstly. With the food is amazing. People are friendly. Like if you walk past somebody, they'll actually greet you. In other states, you might not get that as much. And I was like, oh my word, it's so lovely being here. And then I went to New York. And then that was a whole other experience on its own. So like the travel bug just like kept getting me. And yeah, it's been a wonderful experience thus far. I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comment section so that we make sure we don't miss them. Let's say someone wants to follow in your footsteps, in your traveling footsteps, but they don't know where to start. If they just want to start, what advice do you have for them? Where should they start? Who should they speak to? Where should they go?
Firstly, you are always welcome to send me a message, whether it is on LinkedIn, social media. My email is chatswithshani@gmail.com. So if you would want to send me any questions there, you definitely can. I'm always happy to give advice. I actually get quite a few questions, quite a few people coming to me with questions, asking me about how do they do it. So if you know anyone who has been traveling or who has moved abroad, please ask them questions, especially if they are in a country that you would like to go to. Next thing is research the country that you're going to. Like find out how much things cost to go there. If you want to move there, you need to find out things about transportation, the accommodation, what does that cost? What is the average cost of groceries per month and per week? Right? If you are only going for traveling purposes, for leisure, you need to know like what is fast food cost? What's the cost of like going to a restaurant? What is the hotels, the Airbnb cost, those type of things. And then you need to know obviously your currency conversion. You need to know how many rands you need to save because let me tell you, you do not want to incur foreign debt in your local currency. So you don't want to be taking your credit card, your South African Rands credit card, and going to America and spending South African Rands in dollars, or going to the UK or to Europe and spending pounds and euros, but it's all racking up in rands. Because that translation rate, that currency, foreign currency, is like 17 times more, 20 times more. You're going to find yourself paying debt for a really long time. I made that mistake, and I will never make that mistake again. Okay. So when I moved to Ireland for the first time, I didn't have that much saved up. Yes, I had money saved up, but you only get paid at the end of the month. So you need money for groceries. They might give you a salary advance, which is great for you to help pay for your rent, but in some cases they don't. So you need to have rent money saved up. I remember going to IKEA, and IKEA is amazing, by the way. South Africa needs an IKEA. But I went to IKEA and I bought a whole bunch of stuff for my apartment. It was like 80 euros, and I swiped my ABSA credit card, and I was like, I'm gonna regret this. I needed the stuff, but I was like, I'm gonna regret this. You end up having that debt for quite some time, and without interest rates, it escalates quite quickly. So one thing that I will definitely recommend is make sure you save up. Now, this might take you a couple of months. This might take you a year or even more than a year, but be diligent, be patient. These countries, the cities that you're going to, they're not running away. So you have the time. And if you're in a position where you are able to do that, I would highly recommend that you save up and then do all the things that you want to do. Travel, see the world. Obviously, make sure Google and check if they are safe. For an example, Barcelona in Spain is the pickpocketing capital of the world, and I was actually pickpocketed in Spain. And when I was in Barcelona, I had attempted pickpocket as well. So those are type of things that you need to be cautious about when you are traveling. You need to research how safe the city is that you're going to. Can you trust local guides? Can you trust the Ubers? Do you need to pay for those type of things? Rather have like a chauffeur or somebody picking you up, or can you just use local transport? And another big tip that saved me a lot of money when I was in Europe was every time I traveled to a new city, I would always make sure that I got the transport cards. So in Europe and many cities, you get a transport card for 24 hours, 72 hours, 48 hours, or even for a week. So you pay it once off, you get this one card, and you just swipe unlimited swipes for the amount of time that you are there. And you also get, like, I think, a travel attraction card. That's also saved me a lot. I was able to go to like a water park for free. I was able to do boat trips, so many things while I was in these European cities, because I had these cards with me, and that's because I googled and I researched, and I paid maybe 30 euros for it or 50 euros for it, but the value that I got was much more.
So do your research and have a
Yes,
cash buffer.
there we go.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's a lot, but I think, I mean, if, reach out if you need tips.
Yes, for sure. Reach out. I'm always here to answer questions.
Let's switch over a little bit to chats with Shani.
Yes.
Sort of. You and I seem to be one of the only few or handful of chartered accountants, content creators in South Africa. I mean, you're doing great work.
Thank
What
you.
inspired you to create content?
So the fact that I had nobody to look up to, the fact that I had nobody to ask questions to, that inspired me to start the YouTube channel and to start Chats with Shani. Chats with Shani is all about transferring knowledge. It's transferring knowledge on traveling, on exploring, seeing the world, stepping out of your comfort zone, and as well as, things that relate to my life. So being a CA, how did I become a CA? What are the techniques that I used? And I have a whole series on my YouTube channel called SAICA, How Did You Do It? Where I interview my friends and people that I've met along the way on their journeys. What helped you overcome your obstacles and the challenges that you face in becoming a CASA. And it's literally all about giving information to my younger self, the information that I wish I had exposure to at the time that I was making decisions, so that I could have made better informed decisions.
And why do you think there's so few chartered accountants creating content, and what can we do to increase that number?
I think, there's this perception that chartered accountants aren't really outgoing people. I think there's this perception that we're boring, we don't have lives, because we start work at about 9 o'clock, we finish work at midnight, sometimes we finish work at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So all we know about is work. When the truth of the matter is, I know so many extroverted chartered accountants, people that are living it up, loving their lives. And I don't really know the reason behind it. It might be that they are so busy trying to enjoy their life outside of the 9 to 5. They don't want to sit and record. They don't want to sit and like be in front of the laptop and share all this information. They actually want to go and live their life. Because I mean, the first time I started my 9 to 5 job, which was insane. Listen, starting like doing 9 to 5 as a chartered accountant is insane. Like, where do you get that? Like, that's a unicorn. You know what I mean?
No, no, you
I
can do it. You can do it. You can do it.
You can do it, but the thing is, I did not know how to handle it. I was like, I got home at like 5:30 and I was like, but what do I do now? I'm confused. Like, how do I spend my time? So I started watching Korean dramas till like midnight. And I was like racking up all my Korean dramas, everything that I couldn't watch or didn't have time to do. I started going to movies on a Tuesday. I mean, that's insane. I never did that while I was working, actually like going to discounted movies. Like, oh my word, like my life changed. And it took a while for me to actually get used to the fact, like, hey, this is my life now. I actually have time to do things I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to do like a travel blog type of thing, especially when I was traveling in Ireland. And I just never had the time to do it because I was always consumed by work and my professional responsibilities. And once I finally had the time, and after I had lived the life that I always wanted to live, I was like, you know what? Now it's time for me to start that YouTube channel. And I've spoken to quite a few chartered accountants and on both streams in terms of the traveling in life and experience as well as the CA life and experience. And I tell you, chartered accountants are very shy. They are like, Ashona, I don't know if I can do this. What if people think this about me? What if people think that about me? And I always have to reassure them, that them just sharing the information is going to help somebody else. And I always have to tell them, it's just you and me. This is a recording. Nobody else is going to be there. So I think the putting themselves out there and maybe being a bit shy definitely plays a part into why they don't do it, but they have so much information to share. And I really wish they would.
No, you made a good point. We definitely need people to lead by example, but we will get there. We'll get
Yes,
there.
yes, yes.
I see there's no questions coming through, so it means that you've probably answered all the questions and all the questions have come through. So that's good. We've only got good comments coming through, so that's great.
Oh, wow.
But
Thank you.
maybe before we go over to your section, I just want to check, like, what is, you mentioned you're at home now. So what's next for you? What are you seeing for the future? Is there something, or you enjoy, because you just mentioned that working till 5 was amazing. So what happens when you're doing nothing? What are you doing with your life?
Well, you know what? Let me actually go into the story of why I'm a housewife at the moment. So I'm actually not allowed to work. It's forbidden. It's against the law. It's illegal. I can't work right now. So I'm going through the green card process in the United States. And that is quite a long and strenuous process, very stressful. It teaches you a lot of patience. So that's one of the skills I've been learning during this time is patience. I actually stopped working the 1st of March. So I've been home since then. Um, it was a very difficult transition. I came from a position where I was working more than 12 hours a day. And then I immediately went into not working at all, like just being at home. So that was a very big adjustment. And there was a time that I was sad about it, but now I'm like, wow, as girls, and I don't know if men also have that, but you always say, oh, I wish I was a housewife. Oh, I worked too hard. I wish I was a housewife. I'm living that life now. You got to be careful what you wish for. But I've now just started enjoying it. In the last couple of months, I've started enjoying being a homemaker, being there for my spouse. I've now learned new things about cooking and baking, and now that's the only things that I want to do. And what's next is I'm very fortunate enough to have very good relationships with people that I've worked with before, I worked for before, and many have said that there's an open door for me should I wish to come back. And also, I'm in the land of opportunities, living that American dream, what they call it. And once I do get the work permit and I do get the green card, God willing, I'll be able to work for any company in the United States. So that's a blessing in itself, because coming over to the United States is not easy. I think it's the most difficult country to move to. You either need to get married or have a company sponsor you in order to come here, and then you kind of bound to that company until you get your green card or citizenship, whichever one you choose to do. And I'm fortunate that I do have that opportunity in the future if that is what I so wish to do.
Okay, amazing.
So for now, we're focusing on Chat with Shani.
Nice. This is a question I like to ask all my guests. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Don't listen to when people say you can't do something. This is one thing that my mother always told me. Somebody else's experience is not always going to be your experience. Somebody might tell you it's very difficult to do this, you can't do this, and then you go out and try it, and it's the easiest thing in the world for you. Like there's no obstacles, there's no challenges, and you find out that you are successful in the matter. And I experienced that when I was told I would never go to New York. I did not have a financial services background. In fact, I did everything but financial services. I was like in every
Same,
single industry.
same.
And they always tell us, you won't go to New York because that's the financial services hub. And so it was never my dream. I basically decided I'm never going to apply for that. It's never going to be me. If I go to New York, it's just going to be to travel to. And just by God's grace, I was here in Dallas, and then the client I was working for, they just called me up and said, "Hi, so for the remaining 6 weeks of your contract, we're going to be stationing you in New York City. You'll be
Nice.
working in our Times Square office, and you'll be living in Manhattan for like 6 weeks." I was like, "What is going on?" It was so unbelievable. And even the people that I was working with, like my managers and employers, they were telling me, we don't think it's going to happen. Because I told them I've heard this in the grapevine, and they told me I don't think this is going to happen. Don't get your hopes up. You'll probably stay here, and just stay in Texas. And then I got the email about where my clients are located and that I'll be flying out every week. And it was just a testament that you should never allow people to put limitations on what you can achieve or what you can do or be successful in. Always try. You never know. It might change your life. So that's my one piece of advice that I wish that I would have listened to, because I was told this by my mother growing up all the time.
Wise woman.
Uh, Very wise woman, definitely indeed. And I didn't listen when it came to that circumstance. And that's the advice that I would give others as well. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're a CA or you're not a CA. You can still, if your dream is to travel and move abroad, you can still do it. There's no limitations.
Great advice. Any last few words
Thank you.
from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
Last words from me. What would I like? Oh, you're putting me in a pinch here. But I would say believe in yourself. If you have a desire within your heart to do something, I always believe that it's God that put it there. So who are you to stop that desire from being fulfilled? So go out, achieve the things that you want to achieve. Ask questions. Never think that, oh, I don't know Charnelle, I don't know Tooways, I can't just message them on LinkedIn, I can't just send them a message on Instagram. You can. You can definitely. If people like myself and Tooways, we put ourselves out there by having YouTube channels, having LinkedIn lives, or having professional platforms where we can share our information, then we want you to ask us questions. We want to be able to help you. I think one of the things that is most rewarding to me is when somebody asks me for advice on something, I give it to them, they use it, and they end up successful, like that is amazing. You know, when you see somebody who was once doubtful or unsure about making a decision, and then they make that decision and end up being great, amazing, successful, living their best lives, then that is such a big reward. And I want to say that is actually a bigger reward than my APC pass
No, but
result.
actually, it's true. It's true.
It just makes you feel like, wow, I actually contributed to somebody else's lives. Because let's face it, as CAs, we contribute to somebody's company, we don't contribute to somebody's personal life. But when you contribute to the change, to the positive change of somebody's life, that is such a rewarding experience that I can't even explain the amount of joy that it gives you. So please ask your questions, love to answer them, and never give up on the things that you have desires in your heart for and that you're passionate about.
100%. And that you said, ask your questions, even if that one person or if three people don't reply, the next person will reply. Don't let it, it's got
Exactly.
nothing to do with you. So you keep asking the questions. I love that. That's a great way to end.
Yeah.
The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Shani,
Yay.
thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and have an awesome day, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a